In this episode, we'll be visiting the town of Tenino, Washington. This small, rural town of just under 2,000 residents has no shortage of trackside action. Beside the trains, it's surrounded by beautiful farmland, forest, and mountains that make it a real treat to visit. The historic downtown has an almost timeless feeling to it, like it hasn't changed since the early 1900s. Despite this being my first visit, I was already familiar with the town, but we'll get into that a little later. Right now, let's see what this beautiful spring morning has in store for us. Our first train of the morning has 6 locomotives at the front, including an SD60M with a distinct 3-windshield cab in the lead. EVE-LVJ is a southbound train transporting manifest freight from the Delta Yard in Everett, Washington to Longview Junction. The first time I ever heard of Tenino was seeing it on a map when I was in the Army. Because of its wide variety of natural and man-made features, the Army has used a map of Tenino to teach soldiers how to read a military map for decades. This is a picture of one I found online. It's been about 7 years since I've last seen this map. I'm not sure if the Army still uses it for training. If you happen to know, feel free to leave a comment. Speaking of the Army, here comes a Union Pacific train hauling Army equipment from Fort Collins, Colorado to Tacoma, Washington. On board, you can see quite a few M777 howitzers, as well as JLTVs, Joint Light Tactical Vehicles, which the Army is using to replace the Humvee. This equipment is likely destined for the port of Tacoma to be shipped overseas for training and maneuvers. Loading Army equipment on trains is not an easy task, but this unit seems to have done it well. Best of luck to them on their mission. Tenino is about 12 miles south of Olympia, the state capital of Washington. State Route 507 and Old Highway 99 run right through downtown. On the west side of the town is the BNSF Seattle Subdivision, the tracks we are watching today. It's a busy line and probably my favorite to watch due to the wide variety of trains you can see. Another Union Pacific train has shown up. The lead unit, 6487, has Union Pacific's new paint scheme. The engineer driving the train gives us a horn salute as he passes. M-SEPD is a southbound manifest freight train from the Argo Yard in Seattle to the Albina Yard in Portland, Oregon. Today it has a lot of auto racks on board. It's still pretty early in the morning, and to be honest, a little chilly in the shade. The sun still has a while before it will rise above these evergreen trees by the tracks, but it made for a neat picture anyways. It's the first Amtrak train of the day, Amtrak 503, Cascades passenger service from Seattle's King Street Station to Eugene, Oregon. It isn't too long before another train appears. This one is carrying empty grain hoppers from the port of Grays Harbor, destined for Hastings, Nebraska. Seeing all these empty hoppers reminds me that I haven't had a proper breakfast yet. After this train passes, I'll head into town to eat. Once in town, I find a place serving breakfast right on the main street, the Sandstone Cafe, likely named after Tenino's historic sandstone quarries. The interior is decorated to celebrate the town's lumber and pioneer heritage, too. Inside, I sat down and ordered bacon and eggs with hash browns. It was a decently sized breakfast at a reasonable price. If you get the option between a biscuit, an English muffin, or toast on the side, I highly recommend getting the biscuit. After breakfast, I head back trackside, this time in a much sunnier spot. We are right next to a crossing, so we'll get to hear some horns too. Coming around the curve is a northbound manifest train, originating from Pasco, heading towards Everett, Washington. The trains passing Tenino are typically moving near or at track speed, which is exciting to watch, but if you blink, you might miss something cool, like that old Chicago and Northwestern boxcar that just went by. Speaking of cool things from former railroads, if you stop by the Tenino Depot Museum, you'll find a Great Northern Railway caboose. It's a lovely reminder of the region's railroad heritage. Here comes Amtrak 500, service from Eugene, Oregon to Seattle, Washington. While I was in the area, I did a little exploring. I needed to find a place with a name burned into my memory from staring at the Tenino map in my Army days. And I found it. Skookumchuck Grange. How can you forget a name like that? It's just as I imagined it would be. Let's head back to our spot though. We have an empty coal train to catch. This is CEC RWM, a train taking empty coal hoppers from the nearby TransAlta Centralia power plant, heading back to the Rawhide mine in Wyoming to be refilled. Next up is our second northbound manifest train of the day, hauling freight from the Lake Yard in Portland to the Thornton Yard in Vancouver, British Columbia. This train has a ton of center beam flat cars on it. I see them most often carrying lumber products, and if you're familiar with the Pacific Northwest, you know there's a lot of lumber here. Visiting Tenino on this gorgeous spring day has been a pleasant experience. I will certainly come back and spend another day here in the future. But before I depart, there is one last train I want to film. Amtrak 11, southbound Coast Starlight service from Seattle to Los Angeles, California. Thanks for joining me and supporting this channel. I hope you enjoyed this format. This will be the format of this channel's primary content, and I expect to make a video like this about monthly. Have a great day.